Hello, bubble tubble. Leafs in Anaheim last night. Back-to-back situation. Jack Campbell got the start because Fred played the game before. And much was being made of the fact that the game against LA, which they played really well in, was their first shutout loss of the season, and that they hadn't scored a goal in quite some time, dating back to their second goal from the San Jose game, which was the game before that Los Angeles affair. And as the Anaheim game went along, the streak just kept on going. So the Leafs' first period was not great in this game. Whether it was the back-to-back situation and they were sluggish and tired and whatever, I don't know. But they had the Tavares line. Tavares was out there with Nylander, I think, and somebody else, and they had a really good shift early in the first period, and it looked like, okay, they're going to help set the tone for the team and have a really good period. And they had like this really long extended shift in the Anaheim zone where they were just working the puck around, and Anaheim's defense was running around, getting tired. Nothing came of it. And then after that shift, just nothing else happened the rest of the period. They were grossly outplayed, outshot, outworked, and just over 3 minutes in, Anaheim scored, and it was a tough break. It was like a point shot that was really high, and Campbell was up and set to take it, and then it hit the back of, I think, a Leaf defender right in front, and then bounced straight down to the ice over to the left side of Campbell, and was laying on the ice for a tap in, and he sprawled to try and get it, but it was just one of those bad bounce plays that kind of hung the goalie out to dry. And then so the first period would end 1-0, and they weren't great in the first period, but they were only down 1-0, and hopefully they could get it going in the second and tie things up and try and scrape something out of this game where they didn't quite seem to have it. The second period was better. It was more even, I guess. It wasn't a dominant period by the Leafs by any chance, but it was them kind of clawing themselves back into the game. But again, nothing happened. No goals, no anything. So, heading to the third period, they grossly outshot the Ducks. It was almost a reversal of the first period. But again, it was one of those instances of the Leafs not playing 60 minutes, only showing up in the third period when they're already down by a goal, and they just they got down 2-0 at one point. It was a turnover on their own end along the boards. That bad pass came right out into the slot for a Ducks player, and he just roofed it over Campbell's shoulder from in tight, so nothing he could do there. And then they were down 2-0, and so now they had a two goal hole to climb out of as the third period kind of wound down, and they did manage to strike once. They pulled the goalie really early, and right at about 3 minutes left, Nylander did a great job to pick a defenseman's pocket in the Anaheim zone, curl around with it, and snipe one by I can't remember if Gibson was still in or if it was Miller. Gibson had to leave in the third period, I think, unexplainably. Like, all of a sudden he was just like, something's not right, and then he left. But either way, it must have been Miller that was in at that point, because that was late in the period. So he sniped one, 3 minutes left. They pulled the goalie again. There was scrambles, there was lots of chances, but it was not to be. They couldn't get another one to go, so they ended up losing 2-1, and it was probably not the prettiest game of the road trip. I mean, the LA game was fantastic. I thought they played a great game from everything I could see, and they just ran into a hot goalie and lost in overtime, right? The San Jose game had a really good start, one of their best periods of hockey to start that game of all season, and then they just kind of frittered the rest of it away. And then Anaheim was kind of the opposite. They started crappy and it ramped up at the end, but just got down too much and couldn't crack the goalie. So I'm not sure what to make of this road trip, to be honest. The three worst teams in the West is who they were playing, and they only managed to get 1 point. So all of a sudden, this team that scores a pile of goals, they were first going into that road trip. They had scored the most amount of goals in the league. They dropped to second after their kind of anemic output during these 3 games, and suddenly can't score. So, but on the bright side, they only allowed what, two goals over the last couple games there. Well, three, I guess, because of the overtime loss against LA. So 3 goals over 2 games. Freddie in the LA game, and then Jack Campbell last night. He was fantastic. He made a lot of big saves, and so their goalies have been good, and they just can't score now. So yeah, what are you gonna do? So the player that was the best in this game, other than Jack Campbell, was Nylander. He's been good the whole road trip. He's just been all over the place, puck on a string, getting lots of chances and stuff. Whereas a lot of the other guys have been Marner has not looked himself. It's almost like he's overthinking it or something. You haven't seen any of that creative magic from him. It's like he's trying to force things or something, or he's thinking about it too much and trying to be too creative rather than just letting it come to him or something. Like he hasn't looked himself. Matthews has had flashes, but then he makes turnovers like he did on the second goal last night, and the odd brain fart sort of thing. So yeah, but it's just they just have this consistency problem, and they can't seem to find a way to get a whole 60 minutes together almost all season. They've had a problem with that all season. So the good news is that Florida still isn't winning, but they have 2 games in hand on Toronto. So, and with a 5-point gap right now, that's if Florida wins both of those games at hand at this point, they're only a point ahead of Florida after that. So, it's they need to win. And what was the other thing? Injury front. The good news is that Riley is supposed to be back very soon, which, I mean, getting your top defenseman back, who's been gone for like a month or whatever it's been now, that's going to be a huge boost. Muzzin's going to be a little further, of course, because he just went down last week or the week before, so I think he's still got at least a couple weeks left. But I also heard that Mikheyev, the big Russian rookie forward that was doing so well at the start of the year and then got that cut on his wrist from a skate that has kept him out. It must have been really bad because I didn't think he was going to be gone all that long, and then he's been gone for a while now. So so that was disappointing, but I have heard that he's supposed to be back in the near future at some point as well. So that would be huge to get him back. Speaking of Mikheyev, Campbell's Soups, because we all know Mikheyev is the soup man, and if you don't, Google it. He loves his soup. Campbell's has named him as their official soup ambassador, I believe it is called. Have a look. I'm not sure exactly what a soup ambassador does, but the fact that they have teamed up with him to celebrate the love of soup is pretty fantastic. There's always, every once in a while, a player comes along who gets involved with a promotion, and it's always pretty fun to see what they do with it. The one I remember the most is Gilmore back in the day when he was with the milk ads and he had the cow tights and such. That was a good one. But yeah, it's always fun to see what they do with the players promotionally over the years. So there's that, and then yeah, I think that's about it. I can't think of anything else Leaf-wise, and yeah, we'll see what happens. They got a tough schedule coming up. They got Tampa, Nashville, Boston are their next 3 games. So I think most of the games going forward, there's quite a bit of a homestand. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing at this point, I don't know. So we'll see. But either way, it's like they keep getting away with this inconsistent play where they get a few wins in a row, but then they give it all back with a bad losing streak. And up to this point, this late in the season, they've gotten away with it. They haven't fallen out of that 3rd spot. But whether that's going to stay the same if they keep this kind of play up, I don't know. So they need to just, like I've said it before, I feel like I'm repeating the same thing over again. They got to take the matters into their own hands, get some consistency to their game, and start winning. And that's about it. So until sometime later this weekend with whatever else I might be up to, have a great weekend.